Just get right to the question, please.
Okay.
Because the clock is ticking when it starts.
Okay. Very specifically, you know that there's Republicans and Democrats in this district. So what specific positions do you hold on which issues that you believe will encourage a Democrat to vote for you?
Well, there's many, but let me highlight one of them. I was one of the only Republicans that voted for a renewable energy standard. It's a bold standard that we had in Sacramento that said 33% of our energy is in renewable energy. And I think it's important to transform California into a more renewable energy efficient economy. We're seeing a lot of those jobs, by the way, in the northern part of this district in the Antelope Valley. And so I'm a big believer in renewable energy. In fact, I also joint authored a bill with Senator Alex Padilla on manufacturing, tax credits for manufacturing and green technology. That was one of those bills that, you know, Alex lost a few members on the Democratic side. I lost a few members on the Republican side. But we came together and got that bill passed. And now we're seeing more manufacturing here in California in green technology. And that gained momentum, by the way. I authored the bill to do it for everybody. That gained momentum, and now it's passed because green technology proved that it can work in terms of you know, the sales tax and manufacturing equipment. I was one of the few that supported the Healthy Families Program. I thought it was a good program that provided health care to kids that couldn't afford their health care. And so there's many different items of where I can point out specifically that I've worked well across the aisle. Many bills, for example, Alex Padilla and I did, I think, 4 or 5 joint author bills. Again, it's because I sat down with Alex. We don't agree on everything, but he liked me as a person. I liked him as a person. And I believe when people like you, they'll focus on where you agree and not where you disagree. And you can disagree without being disagreeable, unlike what's going on in Washington today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Good time.
Hi, my name is Barbara Wilson, and my question has to do with health care and specifically mental health care. I'd like to know because the Affordable Care Act, which also known as Obamacare, provides for the first time in many years funding for, at the public level, for people that have serious and chronic forms of mental illness.
Your question, please.
I wonder what will be your stance on the repeal of Obamacare, and if it gets repealed, what will be your stance on providing for people with mental illness?
Mm-hmm. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for the question. I've often said that I thought the ACA was fundamentally flawed. Had a lot of good goals, one of it being the mental health, and another one that, you know, people under pre-existing conditions can get coverage, and another one being people who are young children who are up to 26 could be on their parents' health care. In terms of moving forward on mental health, Barbara, you know I visited the facility in Antelope Valley, and I think it's one of the things. For example, Ronald Reagan is someone I admire, but one of the mistakes he made, dramatic mistakes that he made as governor, is his stance on mental health. As someone who represented Camarillo in the Camarillo State Hospital, mental health is a very important issue that we have to tackle as a society, as a community. And, you know, when we talk about acts of violence, a lot of acts of violence that happen and a lot of homeless issues, they are directly related to mental health. So a little bit of investment that we can have in mental health to help people who have mental health will save dollars in the long run when we talk about homelessness and we talk about acts of violence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, Tony, my name is Greg Abrahamian, and I'm come here today to ask you about illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. It's one of the biggest topics that affects Californians and Americans. I was on your website to gather information from both candidates, mm-hmm. and I noticed on your website you have nothing written about that topic. Mm-hmm. It's one of the biggest
your question?
Facing our country.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have anything on your website about that? And I want to know your position about comprehensive immigration reform as it applies to amnesty or the legalization of illegal aliens?
Well, as you see, there's probably, I don't know, 150 people here. I don't know. I'm just guessing. If I ask what amnesty means, you'll have 150 different answers. Let me tell you where my stance is on immigration. My mom's an immigrant. She was an immigrant from Germany. And I think our immigration system is broken right now. And the fact is, I like to use the analogy or the story of Patsy Ayala, who's right here from Santa Clarita. It was well documented that it took her 13 years. She wanted to become a citizen. She went through the process. It took her 13 years to actually get her immigration status to become a U.S. citizen. And in the middle of that process, Patsy's mom passed away, and she couldn't go visit her mom in the funeral because she would have to start over. Look, that's wrong. I think we're a great nation because we're a nation of immigrants. I want to cut down the bureaucracy to make sure that people who want to come here, that they come here legally. And I also think that we need strict border security, especially after a 9/11 world.
You didn't answer the question about illegal immigration and the legalization of illegal aliens.
Again, I'm following up. Immigration, the key is to have legal immigration. I think a large part of that immigration...
I'm talking about amnesty and the legalization of illegal immigrants. Please answer it. Would you favor the legalization of illegal aliens?
I've already answered your question.
No, you haven't.
I have.
Next question.
Sir.
Yes, I'm Gary Hartung from Simi Valley, and I have a quite similar comment, and I would appreciate a very specific answer and not be evasive. I got a similar comment off of the internet from Melanie Obrea, Numbers USA, and it said, "Dear Steve Knight, I'm writing to you because there's
Your question to Tony Strickland is what?
Oh, okay. Well, okay, the same thing, Mr. Strickland. I have comments here from Numbers USA
Your question, please.
that you have taken no definite position on whether or not you believe that people who are here illegally should or should not be given amnesty. They either should be given amnesty, in your opinion, or they should be deported.
And as I said, Gary, you have to look at immigration, and you got to walk before you can run. The bottom line is, I think 13 years is too long for people who are trying to come here legally to get citizenship. And so what I would do is, again, speed up the process so people who want to be part of the American dream and become a citizen, just like my mom did, that they have that opportunity. I do believe in strong border security. And again, you can't run before you walk. And I think that if we do those two steps, then we can move forward. And again, that's where my stance is on immigration.
My name is Ed Dunn. I'm from Canyon Country. Okay, maybe it's short. My name is Ed Dunn, and I'm from Canyon Country, California. And I'm going to change the subject. I'm addressing my question to both of you because you're both state representatives. We have a very serious problem in the country, but especially in California. That is wildfires that are refused to be put out by the fire departments. Forest Service is guilty, CAL FIRE especially. Supervisor Antonovich and Congressman Adam Schiff called a congressional meeting almost 4 years ago now. It was held in a federal courthouse in Pasadena. And
What is your question, please?
the question is, what can you two do in California, because you can do something about CAL FIRE, and what will you do when you get to Washington, D.C., whoever goes, that you will do with the Forest Service to put a stop to these wildfires that they aren't stopping? Just look at the record. They don't stop them. They either have to burn out or burn to the ocean, or they pray for rain and rain puts it out. We have airborne tankers.
Your
We've
question,
had them
please.
I've given the question. I'm going to give him some background for the question. The question is what...
I don't think it calls for background. Your question, please.
Well, the question is what can they do here and there, and they need to know why they need to do it. And the why is that their CAL FIRE will not call the airborne tankers into the air to put the fires out and stop the houses from burning. None of those houses need to burn. Look at what's going on in the country. My question is, what can you people do here, and what will you do in Washington, D.C.?
Well, what I would do is follow up on already the leadership we have, our current Congressman, Chairman Buck McKeon, to make sure that, for example, those C-130s, that they're available, that we make sure that when we have a wildfire, that those C-130s are ready and available. You know, as John Wooden said, I'm a basketball guy, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. We need to be prepared, especially now when we have the droughts. Another bigger issue is water and making sure we have an abundant water supply. But, you know, to address your question, I'm going to, as a congressman, make sure that our firefighters and CAL FIRE and everybody's working together, but specifically making sure those C-130s are available to put out those fires.
And in the first 2 hours, they will put it out.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Not after it's out of control. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How's it going? My name is Jeff Bomberger.
Hey, Jeff.
My question for you is, in 2012, there was a Gallup poll released during the presidential election indicating that Americans, 82% of Americans, considered money in politics and corruption in Washington to be the #2 issue behind the economy. Recently, just a couple weeks ago, Senate Republicans unanimously voted down a constitutional amendment to repeal the Citizens United decision. So my question to you is, what is your stance on the money in politics, and what would you do to fight the financial corruption and influence in Washington?
Well, what I would do, Jeff, I believe is your name, what I would do is we have the technology today that says immediate reporting. We have computers, and I believe that we should have 24-hour, we have the 24-hour reporting period in the last 10 days of a campaign or last 14 days. There's no reason right now that if you wrote me a check today that I shouldn't be able to post that online right away so your constituents can know who's supporting your campaign. I think that's the best way of doing it, because what's happening now is there's a lot of outside groups that come in. You don't know who's funding who. They're made up names. And then the voters don't find out who's supporting who until after Election Day. What I would do is if you take a contribution in your campaign, you have a 24-hour window to report it to the public.
Do you mind if I ask just a quick follow-up?
No, you can get in line again, please. That's the way we're going to run this. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Strickland, my name is Don Robinson, and you know, the biggest problem I think that's facing our country are the security of our nation, the economic security of our nation, the welfare of our nation is the threat of climate change initiated or caused by global warming. If you were elected to Washington, what action would you propose to take to solve the problem of global warming?
You know, again, as I said, in Sacramento, I voted for that 33% renewable energy standard. I think we can have new technologies, green technologies, that will help provide jobs, that will help solve many of those problems. You know, we've come a long way in the last, 15, 20 years. And I think the more that that technology is used, the more efficient it becomes. And so I think that that's one aspect of many that we can do pro-business as well as pro-environment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Petzold. I'm the principal officer for the No on Measure S committee here in Santa Clarita. I think the billboard measure many times focuses too much on the number of billboards to be taken down or faces to be taken down. Within the development agreement itself, there's a ban on all types of political advertising.
Your question, please.
Do you support Measure S if it contains restrictions banning the political speech on the billboards to be placed on our highways?
I actually oppose Measure S. I think there was a transparency issue locally. And the good thing is we have a referendum process, and we allow the citizens of Santa Clarita to actually take it to the ballot and have their voices heard.
Next.
Hi, my name is my name is John Garzone. As you know, you may know, Hispanic Heritage Month started 2 days ago, Monday, September 15th. I just wondered if you'd like to talk about what Hispanic Heritage Month means to you, how you mark the month, what it means to you in general.
Well, I'm doing events tacos with Tony as an example. But, you know, look, we're a great nation, as I said. I come from German descent. My dad met my mom when he was stationed over in Germany. You know, we have leaders in different cultures. I think it's important for exposure for citizens to have the exposure to different cultures. Number one, being American. As my mom, during the World Cup, she's a huge soccer fan. She roots for Germany unless they played America in the United States, and she rooted for the United States. But I think it's very healthy. When I was a little kid, we had a multicultural day. I was in a play. One of my most embarrassing moments, I was wearing a lederhosen with a little feather, and everybody laughed, thought I was wearing a dress. You know, it's tough when you're a third grader. But you know, I think we need to understand that people come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different life experiences. And I think it's important for people to talk to each other and understand those cultures and those life experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony, my name is Max Morgan, Valencia. My son is active duty military. He's made 4 deployments to the Middle East. And my question is this. Do you still advocate an American presence in the Middle East? If so, why? In what capacity, combatant, non-combatant, or advisory? And if so, what is the end game?
Max, first of all, I see your hat, so thanks for your service, and I want to thank you for your son's service. As son of a career military soldier, we need to have a strategy. I think that's what's been missing over the last couple presidents, quite frankly, as a strategy in order to articulate what victory is. I personally would have liked to see some military presence instead of just coming out of Iraq. Much like after World War II, we had a presence in Germany and Japan. You don't take it lightly when you send your sons and daughters to fight for this nation, and they fought for our freedoms. And as my dad did in Korea and Vietnam, who, again, as I said, is a hero. So I think what's happening now, I think President Obama is taking a step in the right direction. They just voted today to arm the Syrian rebels to make sure, Buck McKeon offered an amendment to make sure that military weaponry doesn't get in the wrong hands, which I think is important. But, you know, what's going on with ISIS right now, what I see happening is America's failure to lead. And when we fail to lead, you know, things like ISIS happen, things like what Putin's doing in Ukraine, because when we fail to lead, a lot of humans suffer around the world. We need to lead and lead from the front. And I think America is still the greatest nation in the world because we have people like yourself and your son who serve for our country. Thank you.
Hey, Tony, it's Jeff. I'm back again.
All right.
It works. All right, it works.
So my follow-up question for you. Would you support a constitutional amendment to repeal the Citizens United decision and remove corporate free speech, as they call it, to regulate the unlimited funds that are flowing to campaigns?
No, I wouldn't. I think a better reform is what I just mentioned in terms of 24-hour reporting. I think that's the key. In terms of being able to contribute to the candidate of your choice, if you support Steve, write a check to Steve, write a check to me. And it's up to you to see who's supporting who and then make your determination. I think that's a better reform, to be honest. Thank you.
Tony, Don Robinson again, follow-up question. Would you support a federal tax to combat global warming, a federal tax on carbon, a revenue-neutral tax that would be refunded to households to help people meet increased cost of energy? Would you favor that?
I'm not prepared to support that. I have met with some local leaders, and some of the local leaders in terms of environmental movement here said they would follow up some information to me, and I'm going to go through that information. But the key component was I was willing to sit across the table and not just rule it out. I'm not prepared to support that, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. Rick Steimerker, Canyon Country, and I'd like to know where you stand on Second Amendment rights, gun rights.
I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I was a founding member of the NRA Members Council in East Ventura County. I've always had an A rating from the NRA. I was the Rifle and Pistol Association Legislator of the Year.
Strickland, Dwayne Hardy, Saugus. As a vet, I am extremely active in all the Veterans Affairs in Santa Clarita. My question to you is, what can you do to help us vets?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, obviously the medical issue has been at the forefront. There's a few things. Well, one, I have a proposal that's a pilot project right now. I'd like to see it permanent, that says veterans have a insurance card that's directly paid right away, that if they want to, they can go to the local hospital. We can do it here in Antelope Valley. They could go to Antelope Valley Hospital and be able to have that convenience to go to the medical care provider in their local community. A lot of veterans have to go down to Sepulveda. It's a long drive, and I think it would be better. It's a pilot program right now. I'd like to make it permanent to be able to do that. Number two is education, to take advantage of the GI Bill, for example. A lot of veterans are coming back home. College of the Canyons, I met with Diane Van Hook. She talked to me about one of the problems is you lose your GI services. If a class is not offered and they don't have a certain amount of units, then they lose their GI Bill. So what I would like to do is work with Diane Van Hook, sit down and say if a class is not offered to that veteran, they don't lose that ability to continue their education, which I think is very important for our veteran community. Thank you.
Todd Hoover from Castaic. As I'm sure you're well aware, the city of Santa Clarita has been fighting the CEMEX mine for quite some time now, and I'm wondering what's your stance on that, and what will you do to make sure that the CEMEX mine is stopped once and for all?
I will do everything that I possibly can do to stop the CEMEX mine. In fact, it's a quality of life issue here in our community. And so whatever options that are on the table, whatever we can do, I've said to the local newspaper that if it means me carrying a companion bill to what's going on in terms of the U.S. Senate bill, I will do that. Land swaps, whatever means necessary, I'm going to be very aggressive to try to stop the CEMEX mine.
Hi, Tony Strickland. This is Greg Abrahamian. My follow-up question is, President Obama has threatened to issue an executive order granting amnesty to millions of illegal aliens. Now, if you are in Washington and President Obama does issue an executive order, which we consider unconstitutional, what will you do about this, if anything?
Well, I believe in our Constitution that we have three separate but equal branches of government, and I believe that President Obama, if he does this, is not within his means to do that. I think the unfortunate thing is, again, as I said in my opening, that people aren't talking to each other. And I think that's what's the frustration is now we're seeing a lot of executive orders, and we're seeing things that should go through the congressional process. I believe in the process. I believe that process needs to improve, and the way to prove it is by sending people back to Washington that are willing to sit across the aisle and work together.
But what would you do?
I would do whatever I can. We have a court system, by the way. When that happens, that you take it to the court, that's the third branch, in case you didn't know. That's the third branch of government that you can take it to.
So you would take it to the court?
I think that that's a viable means, because when there's an overstepping of either the Congress oversteps or the executive oversteps, both sides have the ability to use the court.
So you would favor a court action, not impeachment?
Correct. I don't support impeachment.
Thanks.
You're just like me.
Hi, Tony. Jeff Saunders. I'm not good at talking in front of folks, but I do have a question. One of you guys are going to end up representing the 25th District.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get there, kind of to your governing philosophies, how do you know what your 25th District constituents are going to want from you? How are you going to keep in touch with us?
Well, by being out in the community. And this is what I did when I was in the State Senate and State Assembly. I'm very proud. I did what card tables, where we had card tables in high visibility areas. Come bring your issues. I did community coffees very frequently. I have found, by the way, that if you wait for someone to call you on your cell phone, or if you wait for someone to come into your office, people are not on their turf. And I think if you really want to know what your constituents think, you have to be in the community on their turf. And so I'm going to be out active in the community at every corner of this district with card tables. By the way, I stole that idea from Jack O'Connell, who was a state senator who did that on State Street in Santa Barbara. I will do whatever I can to be out in the community, because by interacting, sitting down with leaders in the community from every persuasion and engaging in those ideas makes me a better legislator and allows me to take those voices back with me to Washington if I'm lucky enough to be the next congressman.
One question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you please not tamper with the mics? It causes problems.
Hi, Lynn
Hi.
Girdlestone, Newhall. Given that fracking
Challenge.
one well, one time, uses from 500,000 to 3 million gallons of fresh water, and given that we're in a serious drought, would you support a moratorium on fracking, at least here in California?
I would not. I would not.
All right, I'm back. Just want to clarify your position on that one more time.
Okay.
So you support full disclosure of donations.
Mm-hmm.
So you support then the unlimited amount of funds pouring into our elections from corporations?
Absolutely. And the reason is, if you gave me $100,000, $50,000, $25,000, and I had to report it within 24 hours, then your constituents would know exactly if you're quote unquote bought and paid for. And I think constituents will have that, should have that ability to know. What's happening now is you have mega billionaires on both sides that are funding different organizations, and no one knows who's funding. So I believe my proposal is the best in terms of disclosure and allow the voters to know who's supporting who.
Okay.
Mike Cruz from Canyon Country. Question about wondering, do you support or oppose the FCC's proposed changes to net neutrality? If you can give me a yes or no answer.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
The FCC is proposing changes to net neutrality rules. So I want to know if you support or oppose those proposed changes.
Be more specific.
They're looking at changing the way the internet speeds function and charging folks, for example, Netflix would have to pay a provider additional funding if they wanted to get the same amount of speed they have right now so they can get download content to their customers. So in other words, right now everything is an even playing field, and now they're proposing a basic minimum at a level, and then people or companies, whatever, would then have to pay additional monies to get a higher level of speed for the internet. So I was wondering if you don't have the information, or if you need to take a look at some stuff.
Look, I would like to get more information and get more of the information specifically, and I'll give you my card, and I'll give you my cell phone number, and please call me, and I would like to get the information and follow up with you. That's
Will
okay.
do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to know, what is your position on Medicare and Social Security, and that we're hearing additional rumors that there will be insolvency if things aren't changed immediately?
Well, I signed a protection pledge on Social Security and Medicare for those that are 50 or above. I think that's a promise. When people hit 50 and above, they've already counted and they've already planned for their retirement at that point. Now, for younger people like myself, or younger people specifically, people just starting down the workforce, we should probably adjust it again to be able to. For example, good news: life expectancy right now for men is 82, for women is 85. So maybe raising that age to get those benefits, but only for those who are young, like 18, so they can plan for that future. And so I would not support anything that adjusted for anybody 50 and above for those reasons.
Just a reminder, state your name and community, please, and then your question.
Oh, sorry. Noah Snyder. Would you support, are you familiar with the Government by the People Act of 2014? It's H.R. 20, currently being discussed.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Essentially, it's a piece of legislation that works to, as part of campaign finance reform, it provides a tax credit, a $25 tax credit if you're filing by yourself, $50 if you're filing jointly, for citizens to contribute to political candidates. Would you support that sort of campaign finance reform if you're not in favor of repealing, of passing a constitutional amendment to work against the Citizens United decision?
Like I said, I would much prefer to go to kind of what I've laid out in terms of the finance reform, in terms of immediate disclosure. I would have to look at H.R. 20 and see it, but candidly, I would probably oppose it because I think the best reform is immediate disclosure.
Okay,
thank you.
Hey,
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too. This is getting real, I'm getting really comfortable doing this. This is fun.
That's what we're here for.
It's not a campaign. It's not a campaign
time's
finance.
up. Thank you. Thank you.